Republicans' inability to come together and elect a new House Speaker is stalling additional assistance for the war in Ukraine and the conflict between Israel and Hamas. President Biden is expected to ask Congress today for more than $100 billion in additional funding for overseas support. So Democratic Congressman Eric Sorensen joins me now. He represents Illinois' 17th District. Thank you for sort of ducking out of the House there. I know that everyone's kind of gavelled in. They're taking attendance and all that stuff. So let's get down to this conversation about the House Speaker. You know, after Kevin McCarthy was ousted, you heard some Republicans say if only Democrats had come together, they could have saved him and saved us all this trouble. Should Democrats be doing more to help facilitate this picking of a House Speaker so that we can just get on to the business that needs to be taken care of?
Well, first of all, we have to understand that the dysfunction that is occurring here in the House of Representatives today can't even be blamed on the Republican Party. This is Democrats and Republicans that want to come together and find a solution. But it is those few extremists on the far right that have caused this chaos today. So how do we get out of this chaos? I was asked by my constituents, why didn't you vote for McCarthy? And the answer very simply is McCarthy never called me. He never asked for it. He never worked across the aisle to formulate the friendship that we need in this body. And so we're going to need to focus on that. How do we get through this? We need a bipartisan path forward.
So are you saying that if there was a Republican that reached out to Democrats and asked for your support, there's a possibility that you would vote for a Republican to be the House Speaker?
Sure. I mean, a lot of this depends on what my constituents tell me to do, because I work for the people of northwestern Illinois, first and foremost. But secondly, who is it? Who is going to be the consensus candidate that the Republicans put up that we can all get behind? And I think that is a possibility yet today. Is it a likelihood? Probably not. But that's only because the Republicans haven't put forth that effort to reach across the aisle. And you heard McCarthy himself say this, that he doesn't want the help of the Democratic Party. And this is absolutely at odds with what the people back home tell me. That all of the people back home, they want bipartisanship. They want this place to work. And it's only going to work if we can come together.
So then the chances are we're going to see another vote. I don't expect any Democrats to vote for Jim Jordan, and who knows what will happen on the Republican side, because he sort of lost some votes and gained some votes during the last go round. But I mean, have you been able to identify a Republican that you think has the potential to gain bipartisan support?
Yeah, I mean, I think that all depends on if that person is willing to come forward. I mean, look, one of the first things that I did after being elected to Congress, I went and sat at the table with the members-elect that I didn't know, that I didn't recognize. These were the people that weren't in my party. We formulated friendships, and those friendships I carry with me today. And so we text back and forth all the time, right? These moderate Republican members, they want this to be over with just as much as I do. We have to make sure that we get back to a point where we can get the work done for the people that need us, and the people that need us not only in our country, but those around the world that are watching us too.
So let's get to that. Let's get to some of the pressing matters. You heard President Biden yesterday talk about what he's going to ask Congress to do, pass $100 billion supplement funding to include some wartime aid for Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan and some other aid, military aid, not wartime, but military aid. First question, do you support this ask? It's a lot of money.
Right. I mean, I was in Israel just a couple of months ago, before all of this ignited on October 7th. I got to know the people that were inundated in these small communities near Gaza. So it's personal to me. I got to give the high fives to the kids that I hope are still with us today. But also, I look at the pictures of those people in Gaza, too. We have to understand that Hamas and Gaza, two different entities. We have to make sure that we root out the evil of terrorists so that Israel is able to be prosperous and peaceful and happy, just like when I visited a couple of months ago. And so what do we need to do? We need Congress to be able to act so that we can get the funding that we need to our allies. And it's not just Israel, it's Ukraine as well.
Congressman, were you able to reconnect with any of the people that you met while you were in Israel since the attack by Hamas?
No, in fact, the kibbutz that we went to, Kfar Aza, was just massacred. I've heard from people that are connected to relatives there. They wonder if they're ever going to be able to live there again because of what's happened there. I mean, you think of the terror that went on in these small communities. Where are those people going to go? Much like a big natural disaster that comes and wipes it out, there's not going to be too many people that go back and live in that small community because so many people were taken away.
Yeah.
And we have to think about that. You know, we have to put politics aside here and get work done because it's not just Americans that depend on us. It's the rest of the world that is looking at our dysfunction today.
Yeah, it is. It's heartbreaking, and I hope, as you do, that some of the people you met there, you will be able to meet again and connect with again. And you pointed out too that there are people in Gaza, civilians in Gaza. The Palestinians in Gaza are not the same as Hamas. And as you know, there is a growing humanitarian crisis unfolding there. The president seemed to, as part of his visit, be able to sort of negotiate some sort of an aid agreement, but nothing has happened yet. Should the U.S. be doing more to help those innocent civilians and also to help those living in Gaza who are also American citizens?
Right. We have an obligation to be able to take care of people. I mean, we have to see these as people, right? And so we need to do what's right. We need to make sure that the folks that need it, we're talking about basic necessities for these folks. And understanding that Hamas right now is surrounding themselves with innocent people, innocent Palestinian people. And that is of grave concern to us because we know that this is going to have a widening scope. The response from Israel will be widening. And so we do need to make sure that there's a humanitarian effort and that we can expedite that because we know with each passing day, it's getting more dire there.
Congressman Eric Sorensen, thank you so much. Get back to work, sir. Thanks.
Good to be with you.